Hi, so today I'm going to talk about two tools that any developer can use to automate and configure virtual machines. The first is Vagrant. You can use this to create and configure very lightweight, reproducible environments. Um, this is great for creating virtual machines on the fly. And then the other thing that I will talk about is Ansible, which lets you automate simple tasks for all your servers so that you can streamline your work a lot better. So, to begin, you will first have to do a little bit of setup. So, for Vagrant, um, for Vagrant to work, you'll need VirtualBox installed first, and I'm going to go over how to set up the Ansible server, which is basically going to fire off commands to the Node server, which is like our slave server that does all the work that we need to get done. And so for the Ansible server, it's very easy once you have Vagrant installed, once you have VirtualBox installed. The very first command that you will execute is vagrant init ubuntu. I'm choosing Ubuntu operating systems. There's a variety of operating systems that you can choose from, but that basically sets up what's known as a vagrant file. And so a vagrant file is basically just a configuration file specifying what the virtual machine should be constructed as. I've already set mine up. The init process will probably not take very long at all, but the vagrant up is actually the thing that actually builds that operating system or that virtual machine up. So that does take quite some time, maybe a few minutes. To go into one of these virtual machines, all you have to do is vagrant SSH in whichever directory you're creating that virtual machine for. An important note is that the Node servers are on different directories from the Ansible servers. And so to finish off with the Ansible server setup, all you'll do is just update the packages and update and install the packages that we'll need to run the Ansible playbook stuff. So go ahead and do all these things. The important thing about the Ansible server setup is that you want to install Ansible first of all, because we're using Ansible in this server, and you'll want to make a keys directory that holds a node 0.key file. And in this file, what you'll do is you will copy a, um, a private key that will be generated if you type in the command vagrant ssh -config from any one of your virtual machine directories. And so once you do that, copy and paste your private SSH key into this file so that we can connect to the node server. The IP address is how we're doing that. And the other thing to create in the Ansible server is an inventory file that basically lists all the machines that this Ansible server is going to communicate with and send jobs. And the important part about this is that in the Ansible underscore SSH underscore host, um, please put in the IP address that we will talk about very shortly. And so let's get right to it. The node server setup, everything is the same except you don't have to install Ansible, you don't have to create keys and whatnot. But what you do need to do is that you need to edit the vagrant file that gets generated from the vagrant init command, if you recall, and uncomment this one particular line. And the reason we do that is because we want our Ansible server to be able to connect to the node server. So go ahead and uncomment that out. And after you uncomment, save, and close the file, make sure you do vagrant reload. That kind of reboots everything so that the virtual machines know, what the configuration is for the node server. and go ahead and Vagrant SSH into both of these machines. And there's no need to install Ansible on this. This is our node server. It doesn't need Ansible at all. So I've already installed and set up all my virtual machines, two of my virtual machines, and I'm going to SSH into them now. So on this side, on this tab, I have the Ansible server, and on this side I will have the node. And as you can see, there's nothing in the node server currently, and we're gonna pretty much fill it with packages, and we're going to pull down our main application that will run in the node server. And so let me first go over what this playbook is about. So this playbook file is a YAML file, which has a very nice syntax. As you can see, we're going to go over some tasks that this YAML file is going to execute with Ansible playbook command. Basically, it's going to first do some setup on the node server. It's going to install Node.js. It's going to install Forever, and it's going to install some npm packages that will have to install once we pull down that our main application. The important thing to make sure is that when you install in the step for install Node.js, as you can see here in this particular task in the playbook, you will want to uncomment these 2 lines out, because when we install Node.js, the first time what happens is it comes down as the name Node.js, but later on down the road, when we use Forever, Forever wants to use Node. So we will want to use something called a symlink, which is basically going to associate that Node.js file with the name Node. So this is just for to make life easier for Forever later on down the road. Now I'm going to do that because this is the first time I'm going to be running this script, so that I can show you what the script looks like when it's running. So this installs the Node.js and does the symlink the first time. This task, as you can see, installs the npm that we'll need to install Forever, as you can see on the next task. And the next task, after we got all the setup work, we're going to clone the repository with the git module for Ansible. We're going to specify the repo and then the destination, which is basically going to be current folder, and we're going to call the folder app. And then we're going to need to give that repository directory permission, because we're going to use npm to basically install the node packages in that directory. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually run the app. And in order to do that, we're going to use something called Forever, which is basically a tool to run your Node.js application indefinitely, so that it can always be up. As you can imagine, if you have something up on the server, it'd be nice to keep it running forever, right? So Forever does that for us. And the next thing that we're going to do is make sure that our security is in check by basically updating a list of these security related tools like Bash, OpenSSL, and etc. And the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to do some cleanup work by just removing all the files in the temp folder. Alright, so let's go ahead and see what happens when we run this script. And the way we run this script is to basically call the Ansible playbook command, specify that we want to look at a particular inventory which refers to our node server, and then we're going to say specify our YAML file that contains all the tasks to perform. As you can see, it's going through each step and giving us a status about what has changed and what's been successful. The green and the change is good news. So it's at the setup aspect. It's installing npm. Now it's installing Forever. Well, alright, I just kind of fast forward through that because it was taking a long while to complete all these tasks and I didn't want it to be a boring demo. So as you can see, our playbook YAML file has completed and we are all good to go on all these different tests, and you can tell by the OK and the green text here and specifying the node 0, which is our server over here. And so really what we've done here is we've installed all the packages necessary to run these applications that we've cloned from the repository, and we've actually run it with Forever. So in order to check that it's still running, we go over to the node server and run the command forever list. And surely enough, as you can see, it shows that the script main.js in the our project folder is running right now, and it shows you different information about that. And as you can see, everything got set up on our node server, and those are all the files in our project, and basically Forever ran main.js. And really, that's about it. I just wanted to show you how powerful Vagrant and Ansible can be to automate different lightweight environments and get things easier for development. All right, thank you.